B-Ball Jones. Every weekday morning at 8 o'clock, right here on AM 730. Here we go. Good morning, good morning. It's the Eye on Sports with B-Ball Jones right here live on AM 1600. Good morning, everybody. No B-Ball Jones today, but El Guru of the Truth, the true guru, Mark Kaplan, back with us. Mark, welcome back.
Thank you, Ira. Good to be back.
I'm glad you're here. We've missed you thoroughly, tremendously, but we know business comes first. In this business, you're in their business doing business, and you're in business for business. So, hey, actually, if you didn't know, Mark sells New York Life products. Is that correct? Insurance and investment products?
There you go. Life insurance, investment products, long-term care,
So,
everything you need.
What's your number?
My number is 901-762-4772.
Yeah, you just call Mark and say, give me some of the good stuff.
I'll give you that good stuff.
He'll hook you up. I've got a lot to talk about on today's show. Not mainly. We do have to talk about the Tigers yesterday in AAC tournament action, and they, of course, play again today. I want to talk about donuts, one of Mark's favorite topics.
Yes.
I want to talk about some of the other tournaments that are going on, and, of course, Mark wants to talk about Zion, because Zion is a big story. And Mark is, he's like the rest of you people out there. No offense, he's a sheep. He's guided by the media, who tells him what to think, what to like, and what to care about. So that's why Mark, first thing he comes in, says, "Oh, did you see Zion?" Understood. We'll talk about that. Of course, overnight.
By the way, I take major offense to that.
Well, that's fine.
I'm not a sheep.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm going to prove it. So once the proof's in the pudding, you'll be in jail like someone who used to sell pudding pops. Anyway, that was inappropriate, but if you can connect the dots, you'll be all right. And there was a terror attack overnight. You familiar with this?
Yeah, that's
it's very sad in New Zealand. But there was something I wanted to mention that I found very interesting in regarding of the media coverage of the situation. First, and I also want to talk about Les Grises, the Grizz, and of course, since I am the public address announcer for Memphis baseball, we're going to talk a little bit about Memphis baseball. Got a nice 3-game series coming up this weekend at FedEx Park, and the weather should be beautiful. So I expect to see some of you out there, dozens if not hundreds of you out there, to come cheer on the Memphis baseball Tigers. Mark, let us start. Well, I'll tell you where I'm going to start. I'm going to start somewhere where we normally wouldn't start. I'm going to start with donuts. Mark is a big fan of donuts, and particularly the most famous donut shop in Memphis. And that would be a local establishment off of Poplar near Mendenhall. We'll give them the name. It's called Gibson's Donuts. Mark is a big Gibson's Donuts fan.
I say a self-proclaimed donut connoisseur.
I'm going to say disagree with that, but you like donuts. And we're talking about donuts, not donuts or donut holes, mini donuts. We're talking about real, actual donuts. Maybe you think you're a connoisseur. We're going to find out. I'm glad you said that, because what I'm proposing next week is we're going to give Mark a live, on YouTube, blind donut challenge. Okay? Mark, what are your 3 favorite donuts, filled or unfilled, from the establishment known as Gibson's Donuts?
Number 1, the Gooberry Blueberries. It's just a blueberry donut.
It's a blueberry cake donut?
Correct.
Or it's stuffed with blueberries?
No, it's just blueberry cake.
So why do you call it Gooberry Blueberry?
Because when you're like there at 1 or 2 a.m. when they just are fresh.
But that's not, it's called a blueberry cake donut.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my nickname.
All right, blueberry cake donut, number 1. Number 2?
Glazed old fashioned.
Glazed old fashioned. And number 3?
New Orleans buttermilk.
All right, I don't think we're going to be able to do the New Orleans buttermilk. Give me something else.
What?
Do you like a donut do you like a Boston cream donut, chocolate on top, Bavarian cream in the middle?
No, I'm not a big fan of all the creams. I'm trying to think. I mean, you could go regular chocolate on top, but that's kind of plain. But if you're trying to do a taste test, then it could be good.
All right, I'll leave the third pick up to my discretion.
Ooh, what about red velvet? Velvet cake.
We could do red velvet. You like cream cheese icing on yours, or just the red velvet cake donut?
You have to have the cream cheese icing. That makes it.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Now we have that settled. One day next week, we're gonna have blind donut taste test between Gibson's Donuts. I'm gonna call them up to see if they want to supply the donuts for free, since we're giving them all this advertising, and no one ever goes there, so they're gonna need it. If they want to supply the donuts for this contest against an unnamed and possibly multiple unnamed competing donut shops, and we'll be able to see if Mark is a real connoisseur and if he can pick out the donuts from his favorite donut store. I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to bother bringing in donuts from the two major donut chains, Funkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme. Okay?
I appreciate that.
Because those are not real donuts. Krispy Kreme are more real donuts compared to Dunkin' Donuts, but they're still like borderline. It's borderline to say, if you take a regular donut, there's a lot of, it's flour, it's milk, it's eggs, it's yeast. That's how you make a donut dough. And they put the glaze on top or whatever the flavorings in there. Like Krispy Kreme donut, it's like a ball of sugar loosely held together with some type of gelatinous dough structure. Agree?
I definitely agree with that.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page on that, because it's really not. I mean, it is a donut, but it's kind of gross. All right, yesterday, AAC tournament action. No big surprises. The only big surprise was that I picked both games wrong, that I guaranteed you could win money on. Number one, I said that South Florida would cover 1.5, and I said that Tulsa would cover 1.5, and both teams lost, and wasn't really close. Connecticut won by 7 over South Florida, SMU by 9 over Tulsa, Wichita State wins easily over East Carolina, and Memphis, in a game that had moments closer than it should have been, defeated Tulane in the Brain by 15 points. And it was unbelievable because you're up at one point by 20 points. And it's hard to convince your team, hey, they could come back. You got to be careful. You got to keep playing hard against a team who had 4 wins all year and none in the conference. And they started to come back, and that's typical fashion. But one thing, people in town want to believe or want to be convinced that Memphis might be on the bubble. You're going to have to be mentally tougher than that. You got to be able to come out and take the 20-point lead and turn it into 30. So that way when they go on a 10-0 run, in the last, 6-7 minutes of the game, you're still up by 20 and you don't have to start sweating it out. I'm going to hold off on too much Tiger talk just in case Jay calls in the second segment. But I thought they looked decent. Davenport looked engaged. Tyler Harris at 4 3-pointers. Being at home is certainly going to help a lot. But, they didn't look great yesterday. And now they're going to play the third seed?
No, 4th seed.
4th seed, UCF, Knights, not Golden Knights. And UCF, are they favored or is Memphis favored?
I'm trying to look at that.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I would say UCF is favored by 2.5.
We get in the show right now. My job is done. I always wonder. I know I've taught Mark so many good things over the years. He's a proper Cub fan. He knows about sports. What were we talking about last night that we were both on the same page about?
Baseball players being dumb.
Oh yeah, baseball players being dumb, and then boom, he nailed it on the head. 2.5 point.
Bulls accurate.
Exactly, 2.5 point favorite. UCF is today. That game should tip around 1:40-ish, I would guess, probably around 1:40. Houston, Connecticut, they're at 11 o'clock. Houston 10-point favorite. And that will go, for usually for about 2 hours, 11 to 1. Hopefully it's not close. Then if it's not close, it shouldn't, it shouldn't go past the 2-hour mark. And then they will, Memphis will tip off about 40 minutes after that against UCF. Oh, I don't know. I don't have a great feeling about the game, but hopefully I'm just, tired and not really thinking straight. Mark, yesterday was I know you really care about this. Yesterday was the Champions League draw for the quarterfinals. See, in most what we call tournaments, we would have, like the NCAA tournament or the AAC tournament, you have a structured bracket where you have seeds 1 through whatever. You play this team, you already know who's coming up next. In the Champions League, once you qualify for the round of 32, they do a blind draw. Okay? They draw the team you're going to play against. You play them once at home, once away, aggregate score. Then you go on. Then you go to the round of 16, they draw it again. So you don't know who you're going to play until they draw the ping pong balls. Well, very early this morning, they had the draw for the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and my Tottenham Hotspur will be facing fellow English club Manchester City. City. They spell it Citeh. It's Manchester City.
So wait, question. So
hold on. And Sugar Lee Mosley, if you're listening, you can call in if you want to talk about that sucker. He loves City. Anyway, go ahead.
Everything's aggregate up until the finals? Is that the way it works?
Correct. That's correct. Everything is aggregate until the finals. And then Manchester United, they're going to have to play Barcelona. Yeah, they got a tough one. And then Liverpool, the other English team, so there's got 4 English teams in there. They're going to play a team from Portugal, and Ajax from Netherlands. It's really pronounced Ajax. They're going to play Juventus.
Who did they upset? Did they upset somebody?
Ajax?
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat Real Madrid.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
It was big. Anyway, that's a little soccer news for you. I can't resist, because this weekend at 7 o'clock at AutoZone Park, the 901 FC will be playing, I believe it's Loudoun FC. I think Loudoun is in, I think it's a suburb of Washington, D.C. So they're like I don't know if they're a farm club for DC United, but their logo and such is very similar.
I'm going. I'm pumped.
You're pumped. You're going to DC?
I'm going to the game today.
Oh,
on Saturday.
You are going?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I'm thinking about going myself, but I'm not sure. My sister wants to go, but I don't know if she still wants to go. I have to ask her. Where to get some tickets too. All right, you have season tickets?
No, but a buddy of mine, he's like, I have a couple tickets. You want to go? I was like, yeah, I definitely want to go. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, last week I heard really good things, even though we lost. It looked like an awesome atmosphere from the videos and from everyone that went. It seems like a really good time. They're doing chants. There's flares in the air. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of fun.
On the website, if you want to sit in the supporters section, which is all soccer teams in Europe have a section that's like for the super fans, because most of the time, like, people don't stand up, unless there's like a goal, they don't jump up and start cheering. But the supporters section, they're pretty much standing up the whole time. Well, on the Memphis, the 901 FC website, it says if you want to sit in this section, if you want to get tickets in this section, be prepared for drums, smoke, like from flares, screaming, chanting, possibly abusive language, and extreme fandom. In case you were like going to go with your kids and you didn't want your kids exposed to a bunch of idiot maniacs. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to get into soccer fan in general, but
I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
I'm trying to see where that ties into what I was just talking about.
Because you need people skills. You know, you're going to be around people. They're going nuts. It was the best sound I could find.
I guess there's some truth to that. Yeah, you don't want to be getting in any fights with any of the supporters because they're all they're a club, they're a family.
Yeah, dude. I wonder if we have like a song or something, right? Because for the Spurs, that's what the Saints come marching in.
That's one of their songs. Yeah, I'm sure there's a song. We're going to find out, I guess, Saturday night. You know, some of the clubs have like really good songs and real original songs, and then some other clubs, it's, you know, or whatever. Like Tottenham is really not great. It's not so original, but it is good when it gets going. And the last day of when they played the final game of White Hart Lane, the old stadium, you can look it up on YouTube, the whole post-game ceremony, and it's like, it'll bring tears to your eyes, even if you're not like a fan or whatever. They had this whole, I don't want to call them African Americans because they're not from America, like the equivalent of a black church in America, but from England. Like a choir, like a huge 50-person choir, and they had this opera singer guy that was also like a huge Spurs fan, and he comes out and he's singing with the choir, and he sings like the whole version, like not just the when the Spurs go marching, like the whole pre-thing. It is like, I'll have to find the clip, and it's pretty unbelievable. You know, hopefully we'll have a good one. I don't know if you're familiar, Liverpool has a song called You'll Never Walk Alone, and I'm trying to remember who's the song actually by, but that's like their team motto, and they sing that song, and it's like a real like slow, you'll never, whatever, and it's like the whole crowd, I mean, it's loud, and they're screaming, and it's pretty bananas. Hopefully the Memphis 901, the Memphis Mafia, or their fan group has a name. I think it's the Memphis Mafia or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully their song they came up with was good and inspirational and not weak. I don't know. I'll say that. When we come back, and certainly there's no tie between the terror attack in New Zealand and Zion Williamson, but my issue is going to be with the media and how they kind of handle some things. So we're going to talk about both the ACC tournament, the return of Zion Williamson briefly, only because of the media perspective, and then also wanted to bring up how I'm already seeing this situation being handled by the media in an interesting way, but not quite what you would think. So stay tuned for that. Also, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Grizz and certainly more about the ongoing conference basketball tournaments. All right, when we come back, you'll hear all that and much more. The Eye on Sports, B-Ball Jones, the True Guru. We'll be right back.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the night?
Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic?
Have you or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals.
Ghostbusters!
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
How is it
We're ready
Grizz
to
play
believe you.
I have a very honest golf instructor.
Saturday?
This is Sheldon Rosengarten with
Middlefinger
Marks
to Wednesday.
Bensdorf Realtors. My instructor is Marty Fulton, a PGA Life member whom you may remember from Plantation, Whispering Woods, or Holiday Golf Club. When I asked him what I might do to improve my game, Marty, what did you tell me?
Sheldon,
I told you to get your clubs together,
Friday.
put them in your car,
That's
then
only
take them to
14
the nearest
like
lake and
13
toss them
days.
in.
Great, Marty.
They
You're
got
a
a
big
back-to-back.
help.
Sheldon, you're far better at selling homes than you'll ever be at golf. That's why people often say when you want the job done, Call Sheldon.
Thanks, Marty. And if you or someone you know is thinking about selling their home, you should talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers and make sure that I am one of them. Find out the difference in what they do in my highly successful strategic marketing program with the Shellbucks option. You or they can reach me at 682-1868 or memphisrelocate.com. That's Sheldon Rosengarten at 682-1868 or memphisrelocate.com. Do it now.
This is Sergeant Chris Richardson of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, reminding all motorists that texting and driving is prohibited by law in Tennessee. Anytime a driver is distracted and takes his eyes off the road or his hands off the wheel, it is unsafe. Texting is the most alarming distraction of all, and our youngest drivers are most at risk. Please commit to distracted-free driving today. It can save lives, maybe even your own. This message brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Patrol.
My cousin, he loves Prince. Come on, let me up.
Hi there. Are you a large person, pleasantly plump, a little on the hefty side perhaps? Well, let's face it. Are you fat? When you go jogging, do you leave potholes? When you make love, do you have to give directions? At the zoo, do elephants throw you peanuts? Do you look at a menu and say, okay? Well, now you can eat all you want, because at Thornton Mellon's Tall and Fat stores, we've got you covered. That's right, fine woolen and woolen blend suits and sport coats in all the larger sizes. Husky, stout, extra stout, and the new Hindenburg line. And for you ladies, we have caftans, moo-moos, and our own exclusive A-frame in all colors and patterns. Yes, we have miles and miles of fabric. So take it from me, Thornton Mellon. If you want to look thin, you hang out with fat people. Thornton Mellon's Tall and Fat, 150 locations across America. Yeah, if that dress had pockets, you'd look like a pool table. You should try my Tall and Fat stores. No offense.
That Thornton Mellon is some guy, huh? I go to those Tall and Fat stores. He's a great merchant and a great American. Mark, before I go too far into anything else, quick reminder, this weekend, it's a huge matchup in the Alliance for the Allegiance of American Football as your Memphis Expressos, or Express, take on the Salt Lake Stallions. Twitter from the Alliance, the stretch run begins. Well, they only play 8 games, right? 10 games?
Yeah.
I think they played 10 games. So, guess what? The 2 worst teams in the league.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, for the playoffs, look, Atlanta's 2-3. If they lose this weekend, they'll be 2-4, and so will the Express. And if the Birmingham Iron lose, they'll be 3-3. And hey, you're saying I'm saying there's a chance. But I don't really care, so.
Yeah, I wonder how the playoffs even work. Do you have to make the playoffs, or do you just automatically get in?
I would guess that the top 8 teams, other 8 teams in the league, I would guess that the top 4 teams, oh, you know what, Mark, that's a great question. I'd get maybe the top 2 teams in each division play for a shot at the, what do you think they're going to call that?
You mean like their Super Bowl? Like where they...
Whoa.
Sorry, their big game.
Thank you. Please do not use that word without permission. What do you think they're going to call their big game?
That's great. The top American team?
So, here's the thing. Here's where marketing and creativity is what it's all about. You want to get this game sponsored, you got to find, number 1, name a fruit company.
Fruit company?
Yeah, name a company that makes fruit.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. You ever get a banana?
Yeah.
You get the ones with the sticker on them?
Yeah, what's the sticker say?
Well, I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Well, there's Dole.
There we go.
There's also Chiquita, but Dole would probably be easier. There's some other ones. So I would definitely try and get Dole, someone like Dole to do it, and you can call it the Dole Fruit Bowl. You get a Fruit Bowl. Or you could get a company like Kohler or Bemis and call it the Bemis Toilet Bowl. you know, and it may be funny and kind of kitschy and jokey, but you want people to watch, don't you? And you want people to care about it. That's one way to do it. Because right now, have you heard anybody talking about the Memphis Express in Memphis?
No.
Do you hear people talking about 901 FC?
Yes.
Exactly. And they didn't have to do anything for their marketing. They just said, we're soccer, and you don't, and it's new, and blah, blah, blah. And
but that's the difference, though. I feel like, you know, the new soccer team, like, that's our team. Like, it could be here for a long time.
Right.
We can get around it. Like, this football league, it's like, they could be gone after a year.
They're trying,
a football team.
Right. I don't understand. I never understand how secondary football leagues think they're going to make it. The only way that I think that going forward after this thing folds and probably the XFL folds after they start, and I don't like being a naysayer about that stuff too, because I want it to work for the city. Why don't they just come out and say, we're going to develop a secondary professional football league, and we're going to call it a minor league team. And it's not like, it's more like what the NBDL originally started out as. Several teams would be invested in one team. So let's say there's 8 teams, 4 NFL teams could have co-interest in one AAF. That doesn't mean you can't get players from other teams, but it would take, you know, finagling and dealing. Then you have the teams have an interest in the teams, and you might see, you know, a player on that team and say, oh, you know what, I'm the whatever for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm the secondary coach. Hey man, we gotta bring this guy up. You know, next season he's been really good, and what I see out there, it doesn't matter if he's playing against AAF players. He can do that against NFL players. And then you start to form an interest with, you know, in the locales, like the way the Redbirds have interest from a lot of Cardinals fans here. The hope that they go and cheer on whoever was, I don't know, Lance Lynn, Stubby Clapp, whatever. I don't even know how many Cardinals there are, but you know, they're invested in it because they want to see them with the big team.
Right. No, I'm with you. I think if, you know, that's the one thing with all these football leagues is they've never had the NFL backing. I feel like if you get the NFL backing, like you said, you can make it a minor league system. I mean, that's the good thing with AAA. You know, you look at the Redbirds, A, there's a lot of Cardinals fans here, A, and B, it's like you can potentially see, you know, major league caliber players, whether it's a guy coming off an injury or a prospect coming up. So they're like real players, not like, hey, we have Hackenberg who can't even, you know, hack it in the AAF. Like, you know, I agree. If you somehow got the NFL involved and had a bunch of their guys that barely, you know, can't make an NFL team that are on the cusp, I think that would really be a big deal for them.
The only problem is number 4 in this scenario is that the NFL is so big and powerful and money flush. They don't care about that. They don't care. They, as far as they're concerned, once they call one of these guys off the scrap heap, they'll show up and play for them under their terms and rules and conditions because they don't care. They don't have to give their support to that. Whereas the NBA, their success is relatively new in the scheme of American sports. They need that continued interest from not just fans in the cities where they have teams, but from the whole country. Like, I don't care where you live in the United States, probably the most popular sport on TV is going to be NFL football.
Right, but the difference is, you know, with basketball is you have overseas, like, caliber players. Like, there's so many different types of leagues that, you know, the NBD, you know, the G League now, it's still guys that are trying to get that two-way contract or trying to make it in the NBA. Where in NFL, there is no, like, minor league system. Well, I mean, college football technically is their minor league system.
Ding, ding, ding. That's why NFL doesn't need you. They got a free system. Yeah. All right, anyway, speaking of the NFL and the way they do their thing and their media hype, you know, so this is all going to tie in, hopefully, and I won't sound too much like an idiot, but it's probably too late for that. The NFL, they're a media hype machine. They got ESPN marching to their drum, where you talk about Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, and their stories about them, you know, and Beckham Beckham gets traded. Brown wants to leave Pittsburgh. Bell signs a contract after holding out for a year. You got all those stories. And they seem to be a story every day for, like, I don't know, months. I mean, I'm not even being, hyperbolic. I'm being literally, they will talk about the impact of Le'Veon Bell to the Jets every day until the OTAs start or the draft. And then beyond that, leading up to the preseason, it'll be like a never-ending story where you're 3 weeks away from the start of the baseball season. Baseball's current biggest name, just signed a contract for $300 and something million, and it was a story the first day. It was a story the second day. Is it still a story?
No, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but also part of it's like now it's spring training. Like now people are worried about what the players are actually doing on the field.
But they're not going crazy about. It's not like Bryce Watch.
No, you're right about that. Like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think it's like, then they moved on. Okay, the guy signed. Well, now let's focus on, how the fourth-string pitcher is doing. How's the prospect? How's he batting in AAA? So I think not in spring training. Like I just think the season's already here, and you're right. They've moved on that fast.
Yeah, and that's not saying it's good or bad. Just I think I get sick of the NFL and the whole, whatever that's not the NFL. It's the people who cover it. So now that leads me to the second story. The Zion Williamson thing is also similar. It's the same way that Dick Vitale couldn't call a game between North Dakota State and East Idaho Technology College or whatever without mentioning Duke or North Carolina. Okay?
100%.
ESPN has talked about Zion Williamson every single day. Okay?
And
wait a minute. Zion Williamson is a great college basketball player. He may end up being a great dominant NBA player. And yeah, he's hurt. It's a big news. But the story should have been Zion Williamson got hurt in the first few seconds of the UNC game. His shoe blew up. It's day number 2. X-ray show it's just a sprain. They're not sure when he's going to come back. Day 3, the shoe blew up. There's quite a story there. Day 4, they think it might be the ACC tournament before he comes back. Then there's no story. I mean, he's a college kid. There's no story. If Duke loses, okay, during this stretch to a team that they shouldn't have lost to, let's say Duke goes out there and loses to the worst team in the ACC, Wake Forest.
But he lost to Virginia Tech when he wasn't there.
Let's say Duke goes out there and loses to the worst team in the ACC.
Okay.
Wake Forest. Okay? Then you could say, hey, would Duke have won this game if they would have had Zion Williamson, or it was just a bad game? Maybe there's a half a story there. Virginia Tech, okay? That's a top 20 team. They lost to Virginia Tech without Zion. Maybe he would have been the difference. If you look historically, with Duke's play in the ACC, North Carolina, whatever, it's a wash, but they usually do lose a game to somebody. Florida State,
I was about to say
Clemson, or Virginia Tech. They usually lose to one of those teams. And if you were watching that Virginia Tech Duke game, they went back like several years over the last 10 years where 5 or 6 of those years Virginia Tech beat them. So, I mean, there's a story there that they lost, but the story's not really about Zion Williamson. They really overhyped the whole thing, and I hope he's good, and I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad he's back. It'll be better for, I guess, people who care about Duke or their ACC tournament or when he's in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, he looked at me. I saw him have one dunk, and I saw that he was 13 of 13 from the field. That's great. I mean, that's great. It's awesome. They played Syracuse. They won. And really the part that makes me upset is the fact that the kid's 19 years old. And I'm sure he's glad that he's going to be famous and rich, but he probably doesn't need to have his name on ESPN and every ESPN channel nonstop.
Well, I'm going to agree with you and also say his son at the same time. First of all, I watched a lot of that game. He was awesome. In the first half, he had 20 points, 5 steals. He was awesome. and I'm only going to watch Duke, really, if he's playing. With that said, like, the halftime scene was like 30 minutes long, and all they did at halftime was literally, just, gush over Zion Williamson. That's all they talked about.
Break down everything he does.
Everything they did, every possession, every shot. I mean, it was like, it seemed like there was one player playing, and that's all they talked about. And it was really, it's not fun to watch a game when all you're going to sit there and talk about is one guy. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I watched this halftime, and I felt like they literally just said the same thing over and over and over again, and it was all Zion Williamson has 20 points.
Well, if you think about it like this, think about it like this. If you're watching like a Warriors game, okay, and they had an 80-point first half, and they go to halftime, whether it's on ESPN or TNT, they will spend more time going over what the Warriors did as opposed to on a normal night. If it wasn't the Warriors playing and they didn't have an 80-point half, they would spend more time on showing highlights from other games, right?
Well,
it's similar. So it's similar with Zion, except the difference is year 1 or 2 of the Warriors championships, they weren't doing that. They've built up to that because they're so popular and they've been in the finals 4 years in a row, or whatever it is. That they've built up to that situation. Where Zion Williamson is a kid, a freshman in college, and they're doing that right off the bat. I mean, I think it's a bit overkill, especially when you're talking about one of the most awesome weeks of the years when all the conference tournament are going on. This is the opportunity for Mrs. Johnson in some hick town that will finally get to see, because her kid is playing on a team that's in there, in the Patriot West Athletic Conference championship game, and there's maybe a chance for her to get to see her kid's highlights on ESPN. But they spent the whole halftime talking about Zion.
Yeah, and also with the Warriors thing, like, it's always, the Grizzlies would beat them. It was the Warriors lose to the Grizzlies, not the Grizzlies beat the Warriors. But then they would show, okay, let's break it down, and they would show the shots that Golden State missing, or the shots Golden State's making, and not the highlights of the Grizzlies.
I mean, okay, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but the thing about the difference in that is that, let's say you're trying to keep, let's say you're going to commercial, and you say, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Grizzlies and the Warriors game. Well, you're trying to keep 100 million eyes on your TV versus 10 million eyes on your TV. If 10 million people care about the Grizzlies and 100 million care about the Warriors, you're trying to keep those people engaged more than you are the Grizzlies people. That I understand that.
Right, but I feel like it's the same thing with Zion, though.
Wait. See, here's the difference. You're talking about like on a game-by-game scenario, because after that game is over, let's just say the Grizzlies beat the Warriors, and then you're going to the Midnight Sports Center or whatever. They're going to talk about that. Tomorrow, the Grizzlies play the Nets, and the Warriors are playing the Clippers. The story's over. But with Zion, it's like it's nonstop, and they're going to talk about it today, even though they play today. But then in the days he's not playing, they're talking. It's just they're constantly talking about the one story. Like in the NBA, if the Warriors win 4 and then lose, and then win 4 and then whatever, it's okay. If they win like 20 in a row, it's a big story. If they lose 3 in a row, it's a big story. And they're the story of the NBA, but other teams can rip that away. Individual players in college, I hate to see that much attention. That's why we're not talking about it anymore. He's a great player. When they win the national championship, if that happens, it's great.
They won't.
No kidding, and hopefully he won't get blamed for it, which is all because I don't think it's appropriate. One more thing I want to talk about before we go to the break, and we can go to break as soon as you want, just quickly. So I woke up very early this morning, and I was just messing around on the phone, and I saw there was a terror attack in New Zealand. So I'm reading, I just went to Google and typed in New Zealand terror attack, because I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't turn on the news. So the first story is CNN, New Zealand, shooting at mosques in Christchurch, live updates, CNN.com, okay? Then you go to, these are just headlines. shooting, 49 dead in terror attack at 2 mosques. Christchurch mosque shootings, live news, New Zealand terror attack. Those were British papers where they call them terror attacks. Now, an American paper says Christchurch shooting live updates. 49 are dead after 2 mosques are hit. Okay? So several American papers didn't call it in the headline a terror attack. They called them shootings. Because we don't really call shootings in this country a terror attack. Now, I would certainly classify 49 people being dead at mosques where the person obviously was targeting a mosque. A place of worship for any religion is despicable. It's obvious that it's a terror attack. The interesting thing is this. Al Jazeera. Familiar with Al Jazeera? Al Jazeera is a network. It's a network based. It's a cable news network based out of Qatar, or Qatar if you prefer, on the Arabian Peninsula. New Zealand Prime Minister. Dozens killed in, quote, terrorist attacks on mosques. Very interesting that there will be quotations around the word terrorist. So are they not terrorist attacks, or they are terrorist attacks? Are they attacks that they want you to think are terrorist, or they're not? I mean, you see what I'm saying? There's something to be implied with the quotation marks.
No, I got you.
I just kind of found that interesting, but that it also came from the paper or from the news outlet that would most want to be covering this thing to the fullest extent. No. Interesting, maybe not. Whatever. Anyway, I thought that would really, you might be interested in that.
No, I mean, I know what you're saying. It's like, they're like almost questioning whether it is or is not a terrorist.
Well, the other weird thing is it says New Zealand PM, colon. So I don't know if they're trying to say that the New Zealand Prime Minister, female, Jacinda Ardern, if she's saying it's not really a terrorist attack, I don't know, it's weird. All right, anyway, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm going to look more into how they're framing this. Be right back.
Get your sea shined up, grab a stick of juicy fruit. The taste is gonna move ya. Take a sniff, pull it out. The taste is gonna move you when you pop it in your mouth. Juicy fruit is gonna move ya. Your juice is soft, it gets right to ya. Juicy fruit, the taste is gonna move ya.
I have a very honest golf instructor. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Marks Bensdorf Realtors. My instructor is Marty Fulton, a PGA Life member whom you may remember from Plantation, Whispering Woods, or Holiday Golf Club. When I asked him what I might do to improve my game, Marty, what did you tell me?
Sheldon, I told you to get your clubs together, put them in your car, then take them to the nearest lake and toss them in.
Great, Marty. You're a big help.
Sheldon, you're far better at selling homes than you'll ever be at golf. That's why people often say when you want the job done, call Sheldon.
Thanks, Marty. And if you or someone you know is thinking about selling their home, you should talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers and make sure that I am one of them. Find out the difference in what they do in my highly successful strategic marketing program with the Shellbucks option. You or they can reach me at 682-1868 or memphisrelocate.com. That's Sheldon Rosengarten at 682-1868 or memphisrelocate.com. Do it now.
I'm Ernie McCracken. When I found out little Billy here was growing up without a daddy, I had to do something.
When Big Iron saw our picture in the paper, he called the Unified Fund and got involved.
I had to. I couldn't help myself. But little Billy's not the only one. There's also little Jason. Once again this year, I'll be sponsoring a fatherless family in every city I burn.
Sometimes when I wake up in the morning, Mr. McCracken's already there.
Jonathan! We're a fly pattern all the way to the goal line. Kentucky! Kentucky! Find the beach! off road. These kids nearly got Munson, but they're back now. Through the Unified Fund, I found out that if you give a little, you can get back. Not more.
This is Sergeant Chris Richardson of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, reminding all motorists that texting and driving is prohibited by law in Tennessee. Anytime a driver is distracted and takes his eyes off the road or his hands off the wheel, it is unsafe. Texting is the most alarming distraction of all, and our youngest drivers are most at risk. Please commit to distracted-free driving today. It can save lives, maybe even your own. This message brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Patrol.
All right, welcome back. Ion Sports. No B-Ball Jones, True Gurus here. I'm just reading more about this attack. Yeah, I think this is why I end up seeing the story about on the news in the first place. Bangladesh has a cricket team. They're one of the top cricket teams in the world. They have a match against New Zealand scheduled for tomorrow, which might already be tomorrow today there. I'm not sure how that works exactly. But anyway, Bangladesh is a very, very large Muslim population, and some of their, it was reported, some of their players were at the mosque where this happened and were able to get out unharmed. You know, point is, forget about how the media covers it and all that stuff. Point is, you got to be pretty, I mean, first of all, you got to be pretty messed up to carry out any type of terror attack against anybody. But if you're going to carry out an attack against people who are, you know, are going to be unarmed and unprepared because they're in a house of worship, you're just worse than the worst. Anyway, I hope they catch the suspects. I think they've already caught maybe one, if not more. Hopefully they'll catch them. I say put them on the chair on national TV, see what happens. Anyway, I got sidetracked. What else is going on today? Tigers, UCF. That's a big one. Terror attack, Zion Williamson, the Grizz. We said they weren't going to be playing until Saturday, and then they have, you know, kind of an off time. Oh yeah, I know I wanted to mention something about the Grizz. And of course, you can call the show 452-3094 if you have any comments on anything. But one thing I wanted to mention about the Grizz was this. This is a very, very, I guess, sensitive time of the year for the Grizz, and it's probably a good thing. It looks like they don't have that many games piling up one on top of each other. Grizz certainly are not in a playoff race this year, but they are in somewhat of a situation where they've got young players that are playing. They got some players that for the future that are hurt. They've got players they're looking at to be a part of the future. Mark, what's the story with Jaren Jackson Jr.? Is he coming back this year?
No, probably highly doubtful. I don't think they're going to risk it. There's no really point of bringing him back. He's got the experience he needs.
What's his injury?
I think it was a deep thigh bruise, which, I mean, those things do linger.
Oh, no, there's no doubt. That's not fun.
But it's like, there's no reason of risking other, you know, more injury or not having next year for like 5 or 10 games.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but what I'm trying to say is this. So, when you get into March Madness, people who don't necessarily follow college basketball as closely start to, you know, tend to look at that a lot more closely. If if you're a big NCAA tournament fan, like I am, you know, you'll start watching at 11 o'clock in the morning, the day one, the first game, and you'll turn it off when the last game's over with.
Best weekend in sports, Ira, is this weekend.
Not quite, but it's funny. Yeah, but you will start to tend to watch more college than you would normally, and then your pro team kind of is in the background, and you might check the score and to see how they did, and then you're like, oh, okay, they lost. And then next game they play, and you go, oh, they won, but you're not thinking about like, where they're staying in regard to conveyance of the pick. You're not sitting there looking at in detail, how's Chandler Parsons playing? How's what's the guy's name? How's Ivan Rabb doing? Hey, what happened to the Japanese guy? Is he still on the team?
Watanabe? I don't know. I feel like he's been going up and down between this and the D League. He's not really getting much playing time.
Okay.
He was only getting playing time when everybody was hurt.
Right, but he showed some flashes of competency, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you going to the game today?
Questionable. If I get tickets, I might stop by. I have a work event I need to be at 3-ish, so I might go for the first half or first hour and a half.
Yeah, speaking of work events I need to be at, thankfully, they moved after daylight savings time, they moved the soccer games. The Memphis soccer games are usually at 4 o'clock on Friday, and after daylight savings times, they've moved them to 6 o'clock. So instead of having to worry about getting to the Tiger game, the baseball game by 4, I'll have plenty of time, as the basketball game should certainly be over by 4 o'clock, and it'll give me plenty of time to go to the baseball stadium for a 3-game showdown. Doesn't mean I'm going to stay there the whole time, but there's a 3-game showdown this weekend with UNC Wilmington. Mark, UNC Wilmington nickname?
The Jackrabbits.
For $5 million. What'd you say, Jackrabbits? Sorry, that's wrong.
Yeah, that's San Diego State, but I just figured some obscure...
I'll give you a hint. Don't look it up.
I'm not looking it up. I'll never do something.
Keep your eyes up. All right. I'm kidding. Nickname is the same as an NFL team.
The Broncos.
Broncos, good guess. Used to be in the same division as the Broncos. That just gave it away.
Rams? I'm not a big division guy. What do you want from me?
Sorry about that. I got so flustered I dropped everything. They used to be in the same division as the Broncos.
I don't know.
They used to be in the same conference as the Broncos.
The Colts?
Mark, a team that was in the AFC but is not in the AFC anymore.
I don't know. I don't do...
Within the last 15 years.
Did they relocate?
No. They're just not in the AFC anymore. They're in the NFC.
I don't know, Ira. I have no clue.
I can't believe this. The Seattle Seahawks?
Wait, why did they change divisions?
Well, first of all, they can't be in the AFC West if they're not in the AFC anymore.
So they're in the NFC West? See, I don't know divisions when it comes to football. I'm a fantasy guy. I stick to players and teams.
Yeah, this is the problem. This is the problem with alleged fantasy people.
That we know the stats of every single player, but we just don't know what division.
Yeah, but you don't know what conference or division they play in.
Why do I need to know that?
Let me ask you a question. Who are the 4 teams in the NFC East?
Give me one team. I could get the other 3.
Dallas Cowboys.
Giants, Eagles, and... Redskins.
When they went to the 4-division alignment, 4 in each conference, they kept the NFC East like the traditional powers, because the Cardinals, when they were the St. Louis Cardinals, were also in the NFC East. And then they moved to Arizona. They put them in the West, and in order to balance out 16 teams in each conference, the Seattle Super Seahawks moved to the NFC. And anyway, point being, it's UNC Wilmington Seahawks.
Gosh, a little breaking news here. James Wiseman has been named Tennessee Basketball Player of the Year. Is now finalist, one of 3 finalists for the Gatorade High School Player of the Year with Nico Manning, who's going to Arizona, and junior point guard R.J. Hampton, who Wiseman has been recruiting to Memphis, junior.
R.J. Hampton Jr.?
Yeah, he's the other finalist.
Where's he go to school? Where's he from?
I don't know.
This is national, RJ Hampton?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's from, is he from Texas, maybe? I was seeing something on, on Fox Sports, they have these shows about, like, recruits, or they'll have, like, a show about, I don't know, something like, unscripted, or, remember the show they did about Tony Allen?
Yeah, he's from Texas. Little Elm, Texas.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, you know where Little Elm is, right?
Right near Big Elm?
Very good, Mark. You know what the third of the Tri-Elm fecta is?
I don't. Please
Deep Elm.
Deep Elm Blues. I got you.
There you go. That is a real place, actually, in Dallas. It's a neighborhood called Deep Elm. So, Mark, anything to add?
I think I had all my addisms with the James Wiseman thing, so that's all I got. Big weekend. Hopefully the Tigers can win a couple games here, at least get to the finals. That'd be huge. Get them back on the bubble, as the Indiana Hoosiers, after losing to Ohio State, are probably no longer on the bubble.
Indiana lost?
Yeah. I don't understand how they're on the bubble, considering they're like a 500 team.
Is there any concern for Arch Miller's job?
No. I think he still has a couple of years. He has a long leash, and they want him here for a long time.
Pretty sure Sean Miller's going to be gone, though, right? From Arizona?
Yeah, sounds like they've already talked about that.
And they have a huge recruiting class coming in. It'll be very interesting to see how many of those players decide to stay. So, anyway, we've got to get out of here. It is time for the weekend. Everybody's working for the weekend. That includes Mark and I. Coming next week on the Eye on Sports, we'll be talking about the NCAA tournament field, how the AAC tournament ended for the Tigers, and the Blind Donut Challenge 2019. Anyway, on behalf of the True Guru, myself, and B-Ball Jones, adios, muchachos!
Good afternoon, my friends. I'm J.O. Pryor, the pastor of the Liberty in Jesus Ministries, and I'm so glad that you've allowed me to come back into your homes, into your hearts, and into your very lives with the true, infallible, perpetual word of Almighty God. For the Bible declares emphatically and unequivocally that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And at the end of the broadcast, I will be praying the prayer of faith, so stay tuned. But what I'd like for you to do right now is go and pick up the phone, call a friend, call a neighbor, and tell them that the Liberty Hour is now on the air. Come and go with me into a service already in progress where God was moving by His Spirit.
I really love you, Lord.
Eating your lunch. But this young son, the young son that went away and squandered his living, the Bible says, well, praise God, let's start reading at the 18th verse. The 17th verse. This is a good place to start. And when he came to himself, how many of y'all know when you go astray, you have to come to yourself? You have to collect your thoughts. When he came to himself, and he could never come to himself in the nightclub with the loud music going. Sometimes you have to find yourself in a place of isolation, so that you can hear the voice of God. Sometimes it's good for those so-called friends to leave you. Gives you an opportunity to hear. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare,